Blasphemous 2 is what I call a proper sequel. The game had improved the aspects introduced prior, the combat has more variety and is much more complex, the platforms had been more fleshed out, and the overall experience feels like it was cranked up to 11. But the other thing that they expanded upon is the reason why we are here, the lore and the settings of the game. The story of Blasphemous 2 takes place sometime after the events of the first game. More exactly, it takes from the true ending of the game. If you don't know about the story of the first game, well, I will probably make a video about that in the future, but long story short, the game is very influenced by Spanish religion and history. Both games are set in the world of Cvstodia, a place where people pray to the miracle, a god that does mostly bad shit to people. I mean, this guy gave birth to his fucking grandpa. The first guy that received the blessing of the miracle was a person who wanted to be punished and he was transformed into a tree. And people built an entire cathedral around him. The miracle also had the Messiah, who also did bad shit, but he was kinda against it. So the miracle revived the player to take care of that traitor and replace him. The penitent one, which is you, managed to kill him after a very long journey and finally meets the source of everything, the High Wheels. Another god who used the power of the miracle to make people worship them and gain more power. After the penitent one kills the High Wheels, everything that they had done with the power of the miracle was undone, including our revival. So Deo Gracias and Crisanta buried the penitent one and let him to rest. Then a heart with a human shape inside it comes from the clouds, and from there the story of Blasphemous 2 begins. With no more gods, people stopped worshipping the miracle, and over time, slowly it started to lose power to the point that it was completely gone. Well, almost. We don't have an exact time since the last events. Some characters says it has been eons, and if you don't know, that's a billion years, which, well, I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. So let's just assume it has been a long ass time. The only indicator from the past that we can find is the Mother of Mothers, the old cathedral where the first miracle occurred. The largest area in the first game, but now it had fell to ruins. Only a few enemies remained there and the entire area had crumbled with only a little portion of it remaining. Even the tree that was considered the most holy thing had now withered. If you listen closely, you can hear a ghostly voice of Deo Gracias.
Here is where the first miracle took place.
All of these things shows how people slowly forgot about the miracle and all religion related, and just move on with their lives. The turning point of this current era was triggered by a couple that couldn't conceive a child. After they tried everything, they resorted to their last hope. They prayed and begged to the long forgotten miracle to give them a child. It was this act that revived the miracle. The miracle saw this as an opportunity to be reincarnated and gain back his powers, so he granted the couple a child, but the twist was that the miracle wanted to create a new figure that will represent them, a messiah. Because he was in slumber for so long, his powers and capabilities were very weak. At the birth, instead of a baby, the mother had given birth to a black liquidy goop that only had bring corruption, diseases and pain. The first person who was corrupted, it was the witnesser, the guy right here who was playing the role of a midwife. The mother died after giving birth and the witnesser had grown a wing from his chest. The rest of the people that were present died. From here on, things will get only worse. Shortly after, many people were affected by different diseases, such as a man who was cursed to cause death to anything around him, or this woman who was put to sustain a door entrance. These sorts of things happen all over Cvstodia. The witnesser who was tasked to witness all of those punishments and to spread the word across the country, so people will be aware of the power of the miracle, so they will begin to worship again, thus gaining back his powers, and so the tyranny of the miracle had been brought back. At some point, the witnesser realized that when he will die, his duty will end with him. So upon his death, the miracle created an urn dressed in gold where the witnesser will rest and continue to display the power of the miracle for forever. So now he works as some sort of relic. At some point, the child heard the stories about the miracle's powers, so he decided to visit that place, so he can see the wonders with his own eyes. When he arrived though, he saw the entire place being filled with pain and suffering. The only beautiful thing he saw there was the sky filled with orange clouds. One of them had the similar shape of a heart, so the child made a wish in that moment. He wished that the miracle would give them an icon that represented the suffering of the land, so everyone could see the horrors he witnessed, so they will know that they are not suffering alone, I guess. He could wish for many other things, but okay. The miracle heard his praise and recognized that this was his last chance to create his Messiah. So he profits from this chance and creates a heart in the sky that will give birth to a new god. Judging from the previous events, the miracle knew that there will be many who will try to stop the birth. So the miracle took multiple measures to make sure no one messes with the heart. How many, you ask? Well, too many for God's sake. To the point that half of this video will just explain them. So the miracle hired some bodyguards, which was formed of a couple of penitents from different brotherhoods. This group was under the command of Eviterno, the first penitent who is from the same brotherhood as our hero. Besides this group, the miracle also recruited some other people who were affected by his curse. The whole plan goes like this. First, the city under the heart was raised from the ground so no one will reach it, and it was sealed using 3 regates that were handed to 3 of the penitents who scattered in the country after that. Then the highest floor of the raised city was locked by a door using 5 keys, which were handed to the rest of the penitents. Each one of them moved into a different city, and each city was locked away and hidden from the rest of the world. So in order to get all the keys, you'll need to go to each one of them in order. I think you already understood how desperate was the miracle to put so many seals. The first city was sealed into its own reflection in the lake, where you can see it, but only in the reflection. The key of the mirror city was handed to the severed tower, which is upside down because, well, the miracle wanted that, I guess. The key of the tower is situated in the second cathedral, which was sunk at the bottom of the sea of ink, and then that key was handed to the ghostly tower called Basilica of the Absent Face. The last key was given to the Witnesser. Lastly, the heart was under the watch of Eviterno, the final obstacle. Because of this, the heart was unreachable. In this time, people desperately searched for a savior, so they turned to the only person they knew was capable of doing such a thing. They prayed for the arrival of the penitent one. The entire area is filled with statues who still wait for the arrival. Because of this area is now called Repose of the Silent One, which references the penitent one. The most statues are at the penitent one's coffin, held by Deogracias. He was probably the one that inspired the people with the hope that the penitent one will return and save them, but no response was given. One person did try to do something to stop the birth. This person was Cvstodia, who somehow is still alive and somehow reached the final room where the heart is. She was though stopped by Eviterno, and the two of them engaged in a battle, but sadly Cvstodia was defeated and failed to stop the miracle. In her last breath, she realized that there is one person that can do this task. Someone who did this before. So he decided to sacrifice herself to revive the penitent one. And so, the events of the game finally begins. Not too long after the penitent one is revived, he meets with Annunciada, some sort of saint sent by the heavens to guide the penitent one. She tells him about the current situation and the fact that he needs to gather 3 regrets to lower the city. The penitent one starts to work immediately. The order is up to the player, so let's just start with Blasphemous and the sleeping Infanta. Blasphemous was decapitated from some crimes he did, and his head was stolen by a little girl who was probably the sleeping Infanta, but I'm not sure. The miracle revived his head and put it in an armor that now he controls. But he doesn't seem to like that because he has no longer a free will. He just acts as the miracle says. The next regret is possessed by Blasphemous. He had the job to listen to the confessions of people, and he did that for his entire life. Even after he died, he could still hear the people's confessions, but yet not even a single time he shed a tear, except when the miracle commanded him to hold one of the regrets, and that's when he started to cry. Now he still sits with the dead right below. The last regret is held by Orispina. She has an unhealthy passion in torturing other people and putting them in cocoons made of strings. And that's about it. Yeah, she is just an asshole. Now that the city has lowered, the penitent one meets with the Witnesser and gets the key from the first hidden city, which is the Ghostly Tower. The key for the next location is in the possession of Benedicta. She was a part of a group that was tasked to watch over the dead and pray for them as long as they live, and once they die, another sister will come and take her place. Benedicta, however, one day had a special death, and she came with a cursed scroll. Anyone who read those cursed words will seal their fate to pray until they will die. When the miracle saw this, he made her a ghost so she could pray for eternity, and the corpse that she is holding is the dead that she was tasked to pray for before she read the cursed scroll. The next location is the Sunken Cathedral, which is guarded by Odon. He was a captain on a large ship until the whole crew sank into the ocean and died. A few moments after, they wake up and they notice that they were all in a cathedral and their bodies were, let's say, not well. Missing limbs, covered in seaweeds and all that stuff. After Odon had risen from the water, he quickly understood that they were revived by the miracle and their task was to protect this cathedral for eternity. Next is the Upside Down Tower. The leader of this place and the keeper of the key is Synodo. He is the combination of all previous pontiffs in this country and he is the last in his line. He also says some things about paintings, which honestly I don't know what the fuck he wants to say here. I guess he is referring to the faces on the walls in his area or the paintings from the ghost tower, but honestly I'm not sure and I will just let you guys to figure that out. Lastly, we have Susona, who suffered from a severe illness which is known as narcissism. She was so obsessed with her beauty to the point that she believed that her beauty is divine, so she prayed that no one is allowed to see her reflection in the water. Well, that, my friend, takes narcissism to a whole new level. Prior to that, the city reflection in the lake was blessed by the miracle to remain like that forever. So the reflection will be like some sort of picture. Even if the city was crumbled or destroyed, the reflection will remain the same. At some point, the bell from the highest tower had fallen into the lake where no one could reach it. In a night with full moon, the citizens spotted the bell being back, like it never disappeared. In the same night, Susona made her wish and this is what triggered the bell to be tolled. When this happened, the reflection in the water started to ripple and everyone's reflection became distorted and soon the reflections became reality. Everyone's face was mutilated and they were transformed into hideous creatures, including Susona. We can even see this effect when she transforms, now being just a skeleton. With all the keys collected, the penitent one is ready to fight his last obstacle, Eviterno. Like I mentioned at the beginning, he was the first penitent. His penance was to basically wait until the miracle will need him, and judging by how much time passed until that, I can safely say that this is one of the shittiest penances. Even his face and hair clearly says that as well. In the second phase of the battle, Eviterno decided to use Chrysanta's sword, and also the power of the other 4 penitents who commanded, which is actually pretty cool. But he is still defeated despite all of that. Then the penitent one used Chrysanta's sword to finish him off. But the problem was that it was too late. The child of the miracle was born. So the only thing we can do is to try to kill him before he figures out how to fully use his powers. The penitent one used Chrysanta's sword to make a path in the clouds so he could reach the god. The child is a bit confused because he doesn't know why he was created in the first place and what exactly is his purpose. So naturally he decides to attack the first thing he sees, thinking this is his purpose. Pretty relatable, to be honest. When I don't know what to do, I just punch the first person who comes into my path. From here, there are 2 possible endings. The simple one is to just defeat the child, but by doing so, we did exactly what the miracle wanted. The child understood why he was created. He and the penitent one fused together and create a new image that will represent a new era for the miracle. But we definitely don't want to fuse with that shit, this will be just a downgrade. And we also don't want to let the miracle win. The true ending of the game is achieved by collecting 4 statues and opening the door of the Father, where we can find the incense of the envoys. This allowed the wearer to complete his penance and ascend to the heavens. This time around the child failed to understand his purpose and dies. After this very long battle and journey, the penitent one is taken to the heavens by angels, and thus
The penitence is thus complete.
Considering the nature of this game, this seems a bit too good to be real. I mean, we did it. We finally did it. We stopped the miracle for good this time, and we are free now. In the heavens we can meet with many other people from both games, like Perpetua, the Twisted One, Deogracias, the father and the mother, even the lady with the health upgrade is here. But there is a problem with this. Where is Chrysanta? She didn't appear too much in this game, which makes me believe that more than sure the game will have a DLC in the future related to her. The last scene of the game with one of her ribbons from the sword also hinted at this. I refuse to believe that she will end so pathetic. She's not even in heavens and she rightfully deserves that. I mean, this guy is here. Right now the only thing I can be sure is that if a new DLC will come, I'll be there to explain it. So if you enjoyed this video, hope you'll stick around in case this will happen. I'm preparing many other videos related to similar games, but until that, have a nice rest of the day and I will see you in my next video. Also learn from this game and please do not pray for weird shit.